Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning, everybody. The last decade of 20th century, we were feeling triumphant that we have conquered all the infections. We had so many drugs in our armamentarium that we thought that we have conquered all infections, and we were concentrating on non-communicable lifestyle disorders. And since last 2 years, all of us are experiencing the gravity of a pandemic. The Declaration of Alma-Ata was adopted at the International Conference on Primary Healthcare, Almaty, on September 1978, and in which it was decided that there is urgent action by all governments, all health and development workers, and the world community to protect and promote the health of all the people, and therefore we said health for all by 2080. Does that mean that we were promising that we will eradicate diabetes, hypertension, ischemic heart disease, which is just not possible? And therefore, it was to eradicate the infections. The infections had already been eradicated from the northern hemisphere, which includes all the developed countries, and therefore it was decided to control infectious diseases from southern hemisphere. This declaration came in December 1980, and within 6 months, June 1981, a new disease from California was reported, devastating pandemic. It affected, most importantly, it affected all the aspects of human life. This is the first disease not restricted to medical science. We all used to feel any disease means it is a problem of a medical science, but this was the first time that it stirred up all the aspects of human life. But it also helped us because it facilitated advanced technology in diagnostics, therapy. It revolutionized changes in virology, immunology, and medicine, refined the concepts of human sciences, and therefore this became a prototype of millennial microbes. Though this occurred in 1981, it was a prototype of millennial microbe. You must have guessed what I am talking about, and that was none but HIV. This HIV virus came in 1981. Initially we thought that it is only a medical problem, but as it went on unraveling, we realized that it is not restricted to medicine because it had touched all the aspects of human life, whether it is ethics, law, philosophy, politics, economics, psychology, sociology, not only that, international relations. And after that, if you see all the epidemics that we are facing, they are all touching all these aspects. So it is not only a medical problem, and therefore as a medical fraternity, we have to deal with all these aspects, not only concentrate only on treating a patient or giving him palliative or a curative therapy. So all the diseases hereafter will be involving these aspects. Now this HIV virus was RNA virus. And what we are seeing now are most of the viruses are RNA viruses. Over the years we found that there is HIV-1 with so many groups and so many subtypes and so many subtypes. And we didn't end there because this virus is continuously mutating, changing its structure, changing its color, and it forms recombinant forms. Okay? Then we realized that there is another virus that is HIV-2. Now all of you who have experienced last 2 years will see the same scenario, that it started with SARS-CoV-19, SARS-CoV-2, and then how it went on changing its colors. Then we had HIV-2. These are circulating recombinant forms. A frequent action of a retrovirus to enlarge its genetic repertoire is formation of recombination. So all the viruses that we are going to face hereafter will have these variants. They will mutate very rapidly. There will be variants. There will be recombination, and these recombinations pose newer challenges like we don't know what is the rate of their replication and transmission, what will be their therapeutic response, and what will be their resistance patterns, whether our present drugs will act on them. These CRFs were identified, and as you can see in Ghana, 66% of infections were because of the circulating recombinant forms, 25% were unique recombinations, and only 9% are pure genetic forms. And therefore it was Anthony Fauci who had prophesied the inevitable but unpredictable appearance of new infectious diseases has been recognized for millennia, well before the discovery of causative infectious agent. So we know that this is going to come, but we don't know what will come and how we are going to face it. Today, however, despite extraordinary advances in development of countermeasures like diagnostics, therapeutics and vaccine, the ease of world travel and increased global interdependence have added layers of complexity to containing these infectious diseases. All of us have faced that last 2 years. That affect not only the health but the economic stability of the societies. Emerging infections, newly identified and previously unknown infectious agents that cause public health problems either locally or internationally. These are emerging infections. At least 30 new viral diseases have been identified. 17 million people succumb every year, of which 7 million are from Southeast Asia. But till then, the infections were like SARS, chikungunya, Nipah, H1n1 and others. All are single stranded RNA viruses and they are zoonotic. Okay? But you know, in last 2 years, what proportion of population we have lost to COVID. Now there is a difference between disease and infection. The term disease refers to conditions that impair normal tissue function. Just to give you a simple example, atherosclerosis. It arises in one's body because of hyperlipidemias or because of other factors, or maybe simply aging. An infectious disease is a disease that is caused by the invasion of a host by agents whose activities harm the host tissues. Okay? That is, they cause the disease. Because they harm the host tissue, it is a disease. And what is more important is that it can be transmitted to other individuals. That is, that they are infectious. So, primary disease is different. Infectious diseases we have to make this differentiation. And the most worrisome infectious agents are those that are both contagious and very virulent. Okay? Poliovirus, it is excreted in the stools of large population. But the virulence is low and only 5 to 10% of the people suffer. As against that, there are viruses which are very virulent and therefore they spread very rapidly. What are the infectious agents? Bacteria. Just now Dr. Karnad was talking, and before that also there was a lecture on drug resistance. So we are facing now the drug resistant bacteria. Viruses, newer viruses which are emerging, there are DNA or RNA. The viruses are only of these two types. Fungi which have already developed drug resistance, protozoa, helminths and prions. Don't forget that. These prions are infectious particles that consist only of proteins, but they are causing degenerative disease of the neurology. These proteinaceous infectious particles have been named as prions. So remember, we are going to face more and more prions as the science advances. Now this SARS, the first pandemic of 21st century, this has changed the world. It emerged in 2003. I am not talking about SARS-CoV-2, I am talking about SARS-CoV-1. It emerged in 2003, hotel in Hong Kong. Fruit bats, civet cats, small mammals, these were the reservoirs and amplifiers of the virus. It jumped to the humans with great adaptations. All the viruses have this ability to adapt to new environment or new host. Source was wet markets, that is the live animals people used to eat, in Guangdong, Hong Kong. Person to person respiratory spread through the droplets. So this was SARS. The first pandemic of 21st century changed the world. As you can see here, I have shown the airport is all empty and it rapidly spread worldwide. 8,900 persons within 3 to 4 months, 29 countries across 5 continents, 744 deaths. Now this actually appears insignificant if you compare COVID-2 in last 2 years. The number of toll that COVID-2 has taken that the way it has spread and became a pandemic, it is really amazing. 21% of healthcare workers were affected, and infectious disease in one country is a threat to all. So remember that. Unsuspecting air travelers in international spread. And this is what we have seen in last 2 years. Tremendous negative economic impact on travel, trade and tourism, and estimated loss of 30 to 150 billions because of SARS-CoV-1. I'm not going to talk much about COVID-2 because there is a separate lecture, but you can just extrapolate this. And why extrapolate? We all have experienced all these problems in last 2 years. Ebola and 9 other viral diseases pose a big threat to India. This was ICMR advisory in July 2019. Chikungunya. I'm just going to talk about a few of the viral infections that we know so far. This is an illness of the banded walker. It is in Asia, Africa, Europe. It is sylvatic cycle. Aedes aegypti is the vector. Skin rash, joint pains, chronic inflammatory rheumatism. We all have been seeing it, and though it has not reached a pandemic proportion, but we have all these hotspots of chikungunya, and even today the patients are coming with chikungunya. Zoonosis, I said most of these infections will be zoonotic. Zoon means animal and nosos is sickness. So infectious diseases that spread between vertebrate animal and humans, these are zoonotic diseases. And this is the world map which shows you the hotspots of the zoonotic diseases. And if you see whole of India, Southeast Asia and few countries in Europe as well as in Africa, South Africa. So these are the countries which are the hotspots for relative risk of emerging infectious diseases. And these are zoonotic pathogens, remember that. Now why this is happening? Why the viruses or other organisms from these animals are jumping to the human? Because we ourselves are responsible for this. I'll tell you in a short while. Now these breaches in species barrier selected emerging infections in human identified since 1976. This is just a sample that I am showing. The list is very, very big. And all these are zoonotic infections. For example, acute hemorrhagic fever syndrome from Lhasa, West Africa. This is from rodents. Feces, urine and aerosols from rodents are to the human. There is a milder form of Lhasa, but there is a severe form with hemorrhagic form with a fatality of 70%, fetal loss 85%. Same thing about Rift Valley fever. It is jumped from sheep in Rift Valley of Kenya, Sub-Saharan Africa, Middle East. Mild self-limiting form in majority of the people, but there is a severe form, hemorrhagic fever, ocular syndrome, meningoencephalitis. As we have been seeing in COVID-2, there is a milder form, but there is a severe form with a very huge fatality. Acute hemorrhagic fever, Crimean Congo hemorrhagic fever, Africa, Europe, Asia and Gujarat. We had patients in Gujarat. Infectious ticks from animals, birds to the human. Farmers, vets, slaughterhouse workers, they all get infected. There is petechiae, bleeding, DIC and multi-organ failure. Ebola virus was discovered in the Democratic Republic of Congo near the region of Ebola River, and therefore it was named as Ebola. Human to human by direct transmission. Initially it is something like flu, then bleeding, GI complaints, delirium, coma, fatalities by more than 90%. What is worst is more than 1100 healthcare workers succumbed to Ebola on duty. So we all have to be very, very cautious and be prepared because we can't deny our duty. Then H1n1 Swine Flu. This is a triple reassortment antigen from humans, swine and avian. Okay, high attack rate, increased morbidity and mortality. It is a flu-like syndrome. It causes pneumonia and respiratory failure. Though there is a vaccine, every year there is a new variant and therefore vaccine goes on changing. In 2010, WHO declared that pandemic is over, but still the cases are occurring even in Maharashtra. So we have not eradicated swine flu or controlled swine flu completely. Avian influenza. The virus is H5n1, highly pathogenic avian influenza. Since November 2003, avian influenza in birds it affected birds and then the humans. 60 countries across Asia, Europe, Middle East, Africa, so all continents. More than 220 million birds were killed by this virus or culled to prevent further spread. Majority of human H5n1 infection due to direct contact with birds infected with the virus. Now the virus has mutated and now we are getting H7n9 avian influenza. So basic characteristic of this viruses remains the same, that they will go on mutating, they will go on finding their ways and means to survive and find newer and newer hosts, and therefore these changes are taking place. And then Middle East Respiratory Syndrome 2012 from Saudi Arabia. Who was the reservoir? Camels and fruit bats. Large coronavirus. Now since the corona mention has come here, let me tell you the coronavirus was first detected in 1965. Up till now more than 6 variants have been known and only few of them are pathogenic. Okay, so it's a large coronavirus. Unexplained pneumonia in Middle East, severe pneumonia, ARDS, sepsis, multi-organ failure. Travelers to Middle East, multiple samples of nasopharyngeal swabs and sputum, blood, urine are taken, but again the fatality was very high. So again this was a form of coronavirus. Then comes Nipah. The first case occurred in Malaysian village called Sungai Nipah in 1998. Why I am giving you this history? Because those days we ignored. Okay, in some pocket there is some new viral infection has come, but very soon it spread all over. It is from pigs, dogs to human, fruit bats and then human to human. So again to start with it is zoonotic and then from human to human. 4 outbreaks have already taken place in India till now. Affects brainstem functions, segmental myoclonus, diagnosed by PCR and IgM, 75% fatality. The only way to face this challenge is biosafety. You all must have read about this epidemic in Kerala. Okay? So don't feel that we are protected, we are, because we are remaining in our houses and we are using our face mask. No, we are not secured. We are all facing this wrath. Changing Nipah virus epidemiology. Now just read this. Human to human transmission first suspected in 2001, way back 20 years ago. And even today we are not yet equipped or prepared to face a Nipah epidemic in India. Hospitalized patients in India. Human to human transmission suspected again. That means, right in the first few cases or a cluster of cases, we can't see the transmissibility or we do not know the mode of transmission. So, human to human transmission was suspected again in 2003, 5 and 7 in Bangladesh. Cases could not be linked to domestic animal exposure, including pigs. Index cases not identified and therefore it became a problem. And then it was also suggested that it could be a foodborne disease. Finally, we came down to bats. And this is the Nipah in Kerala. And this I am giving you a picture, the burial of Nipah patient by healthcare workers. And this is what exactly we were facing in last 2 years. So we are not safe. We have to take precautions and we have to be prepared to face all this. Then Zika virus from Zika forest of Uganda, Aedes aegypti is the Vector, transmission, perinatal, in utero, sexual, transfusion-related transmission. Why I am saying all these young doctors, you must read in detail about these infections and be prepared that we are going to face this in next few years. Flu-like illness, self-limiting, Guillain-Barré microencephaly in newborn. In India, 3 cases first reported from Ahmedabad. In October 2018, Rajasthan had 94 confirmed cases and seen in 22 pregnant women. Sorry. Okay. I think, okay. Re-emerging infections. What is re-emerging infections? Infectious agents that have been known for some time had fallen to such low levels that they were no longer considered as public health problems, are now showing upward trends in incidence or prevalence worldwide. Because of the change in ecology, change in vector, change in mutation, the mutation, susceptibility of the host, it is because of our lifestyle changes that we are becoming more and more susceptible. As we have a diabetic epidemic in our country, we are becoming more susceptible. We have HIV, we have malnutrition. So all these factors which are making us immune compromised, we are increasing our susceptibility. So dengue, cholera, plague, which had occurred few years back, MRSA, New Delhi, MDR and resistant malaria. So re-emerging infections, Global Polio Eradication Initiative was taken in 1988. 7 documented incidents underscore the potential for facility-associated release of polio virus into the community in modern. We had controlled it, but we have preserved this polio virus in the laboratory, and it released from there. Just imagine the insecurities that we have. Polio re-emerges in Philippines 19 years after it was eradicated. Kalaburgai, 25 MBBS students hospitalized with diphtheria. We had not even heard of diphtheria in last 30-40 years. When we were students, we were taken to Kasturba Hospital, which was an infectious disease hospital, and we were shown some occasional diphtheria. More than 8,000 cases of diphtheria have been reported in 2004. So, we are only blaming the viruses and the microorganism, but we ourselves are at fault. Human demographics and behavior have changed. There are technological advances, industrial revolution, economic development and land use. We are causing a lot of deforestation. International travel and commerce has increased so much that the disease can spread within days. Microbial adaptation and change. This is very, very important. As we are encroaching on their area, they are getting adapted to our ways of life. Breakdown of health measures and human susceptibility. Climate and weather has changed, changing ecosystem. Poverty and social inequality is increasing. War and famine. Even today we are facing a war and we do not know what will be the scope of this war. Lack of political will, and last and the most importantly, we are on the brink of bioterrorism. So these viruses or organisms can be released from the laboratory to cause a devastation. To face these challenges, therefore, what do we need? We need capacity building and rapid response. In spite of knowing all this from 1980, were we prepared to face COVID in last 2 years? Slowly our response started building. Okay, but we still didn't have that community awareness. We still failed politically, miserably. We were not prepared. We didn't have oxygen plants. We didn't have beds. So many things. I will not go into those. You know all that. But therefore, to face these challenges, we have to have a capacity building. Therefore, we need continuous medical education programs for medical and paramedical people, that how you are going to face this. Then we must have a high index of suspicion. If you see a different case, then we must have a high index of suspicion that this is some unique features, these are different from other people. Surveillance system has to be there, diagnostic preparedness. Even today we are arguing about the rapid antigen test and RT-PCR and what is the sensitivity and specificity of each. So diagnostic preparedness, we have to have a global network, but what is most important is biosafety and hand washing for everything. Key task in dealing with emerging diseases surveillance at national, regional and global level. Because as I said, it is a global threat, any disease that you take, and therefore we have to have a surveillance at these three levels. We have to be prepared epidemiologically, our laboratories have to be equipped. Investigations and early control measures. You know, it took 1 year for us to implement early control measures in COVID-2 and implement preventive measures. Okay, ultimately it is a tug of war. I am just showing you a tennis court, but it is a tug of war between microbes and man, and it is our bits versus their genes. And we can't predict how their genes are going to express, behave and mutate, and therefore they will be continuously posing a challenge and threat to us. So that's all that I wanted to share with you, to make you aware the challenges that we are going to face in the next few years. So we have to be prepared. Thank you.